I didn't realize I was about to die until my ceiling started cracking. At first, it was just a sound sharp, splitting, like something under pressure finally giving up. I was lying on my couch, half asleep, TV still playing some late-night rerun I wasn't even watching anymore. It had been one of those exhausting days where your body shuts down before your brain catches up. Then came the smell. Burning. Real, thick, unmistakable. I sat up immediately, heart already picking up speed. What the hell? The crack above me deepened, a thin line spreading across the ceiling like a warning I didn't understand fast enough. Then a small piece of plaster fell, hitting the floor right in front of me. That's when instinct kicked in. I jumped to my feet, adrenaline slamming through my system. My apartment suddenly felt too small, too hot. I rushed toward the door, grabbing my phone off the table. But the second I opened it, smoke. Dark, heavy, pouring in from the hallway. I coughed instantly, stumbling back, my eyes watering. The air burned my throat with every breath. No, no, no. Panic hit hard and fast. I turned, looking around like there was another way out. Window. Fire escape. Something. But my apartment faced the wrong side, and the only real exit was the one now filling with smoke. Somewhere outside, I heard shouting. Sirens, distant but getting closer. Doors slamming. People running. And me? I was stuck. My chest tightened, breaths coming shorter, sharper. I tried pulling my shirt over my mouth, pacing like that would magically fix anything. Think, Peter. Think. But thinking was getting harder. The smoke was already creeping in, curling along the ceiling, lowering like it had all the time in the world. The heat followed, subtle but growing, pressing against my skin. I backed toward the window anyway, even though I knew it wouldn't help. And that's when the power cut. Everything went darker, quieter, worse. Shit. My voice sounded smaller than I expected. I was halfway to the kitchen, considering grabbing something water, anything when I heard it. A crash. Not inside my apartment. Close. Very close. Then, fire department. Anyone inside. The voice was loud, commanding, cutting through everything in a way nothing else had. Hope hit me, so suddenly it almost hurt. Yeah, I'm here. I shouted, coughing right after. Heavy footsteps. Fast. Purposeful. Then my door burst open. I barely had time to register the figure stepping through the smoke, tall, broad, moving like the chaos around him didn't matter. A firefighter. He scanned the room in seconds, and then his gaze locked onto me. Hey, stay where you are. Like I was going anywhere. He crossed the distance fast, grabbing my arm with a firm, grounding grip. Are you hurt? I shook my head quickly, still coughing. I don't think so. Good. We're getting out. No hesitation. No wasted words. Just certainty. And for some reason, that steadiness cut through my panic better than anything else could. He adjusted his mask slightly, then guided me toward the door. His hand didn't leave my arm, like he didn't trust the situation or me to stay stable on its own. Stay low, he said. Breathe slow. Follow me. I nodded, even though my lungs were screaming. The hallway was worse than before. Thicker smoke. Hotter air. Everything blurred and distorted. But he moved like he knew exactly where he was going, and I stayed closer than I probably needed to. My hand ended up gripping his gear without me even realizing it. He didn't tell me to let go. Step by step, we pushed forward. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned out almost everything else. Until finally, cold air. We broke apart outside, and I stumbled forward, nearly collapsing as I took in clean air like I'd been underwater. Easy, he said, steadying me again. I bent over, hands on my knees, coughing hard, my whole body shaking now that it was over. Or at least, the worst part. You're okay, he added. I nodded, trying to believe it. After a few seconds, I looked up. He had taken off his mask. And yeah, this is the part that stuck with me. Not the fire. Not the fear. Him. Aaron. His name was right there on his jacket, but I barely needed to read it. Something about his face focused, calm, but with this edge of concern that felt real. Not just part of the job. You live there? He asked, glancing back at the building. Yeah, I said, voice still rough. Apartment 3B. He nodded, like he was filing that away somewhere. Good thing you stayed put. Could have been worse. I let out a shaky breath. Yeah, I figured that out a little late. That earned the smallest hint of a smile from him. Just for a second. But it was enough. Sirens were louder now. More firefighters moving around. People gathering. Chaos settling into something more controlled. But somehow, Everything felt quieter right where we stood. Peter, I said suddenly, like I needed to give him something back. My name. He looked at me again, holding my gaze just a beat longer than necessary. Aaron, he replied. Yeah, I already knew. And I had no idea yet that this wasn't where our story ended. Not even close. I should have forgotten him. That's what made the most sense. Fires happen. People get rescued. Life moves on. You don't just stay connected to the guy who pulled you out of a burning apartment like it's some kind of movie. Except, that's not what happened. Because 3 days later, I saw Aaron again. And it wasn't by accident. After the fire, everything felt off. I was crashing on my friend's couch, wearing borrowed clothes, scrolling through my phone like it could somehow give me back a sense of normal. My apartment was sealed off for investigation. Half my stuff was probably gone. And my brain, still stuck in that hallway, still replaying the moment his hand grabbed my arm. It was stupid how much that stuck with me. Not the fear, not even the fire itself. Him. Dude, you've been staring at that coffee for like 10 minutes. I blinked, snapping out of it. What? My friend laughed, shaking his head. You good? Or are you just processing your near-death experience dramatically? Shut up, I muttered, finally taking a sip. We were sitting in this small cafe a few blocks from his place. It was quiet, warm, normal. Exactly what I needed. Or what I thought I needed. Because then the door opened, and everything in me went still. I didn't even see his face at first. Just the uniform. That same dark shirt. The same posture. The same presence that somehow filled the room without trying. Aaron. My brain recognized him before I fully did. He stepped inside, scanning the place like it was second nature. Not tense, just aware. Controlled. Then his eyes landed on me. And he stopped. For a second, neither of us moved. Peter. My name and his voice did something weird to my chest. Yeah, I said, standing up a little too quickly. Hey. My friend looked between us, confused. You guys know each other? Aaron didn't take his eyes off me. Yeah, he said simply. I do. We stepped outside a few minutes later. I told my friend I'd be back, but honestly, I didn't even know what this was. A conversation? Closure? Something else? The air outside was cooler, quieter. For a moment, we just stood there. You okay? Aaron asked. Same question as before, but it felt different now. Yeah, I said. Yeah, considering. He nodded, studying me like he was checking for something deeper than just the obvious. You shouldn't have been there that long, he added. Smoke was getting bad. I let out a small breath. Yeah, I figured that part out too. That almost smile again. God, it was subtle, but it hit harder than it should have. So, you just happened to walk into the same cafe? I asked, trying to sound casual. He hesitated, just for a second. Then, not exactly. I frowned. What does that mean? Another pause. Then he rubbed the back of his neck, exhaling lightly. I asked around, he admitted. About you. That caught me off guard. You what? You didn't have anywhere to go that night, he said, like he was explaining something simple. I just wanted to make sure you were all right. I stared at him. Because that wasn't normal, right? Firefighters don't track people down after rescues. They don't walk into random cafes hoping to find you. Why? I asked, quieter now. His jaw tightened slightly, like he wasn't used to being on this side of things. I don't know, he said honestly. Just felt like I should. There was something in the way he said it. Not casual, not forced, real. We stood there, the city moving around us. People passing by like this wasn't a moment that was quietly shifting something important. I'm staying with a friend for now, I said after a second. Until I figure stuff out. Aaron nodded. Good. Another pause. Then, if you need anything, he started, then stopped, like he was reconsidering how much he should say. I tilted my head. What? He looked at me again, more directly this time. Anything, he repeated. And yeah, that definitely didn't sound like something a stranger says. I should have kept it simple. Said thanks. Moved on. Left it there. But instead, I heard myself say, do you always do this? He frowned slightly. Do what? Check up on people you rescue. A beat. Then, quieter. No. And something about that answer settled deep in my chest. We didn't plan anything. No numbers exchanged at first. No promises. Just a conversation that lasted longer than it should have. Long enough that when we finally went back inside, my friend gave me a look like he had questions I wasn't ready to answer. And when Aaron left, he glanced back once. Just once. But it was enough. Because that's when I realized something. He didn't disappear after saving me. And somehow, I didn't want him to. I told myself it was nothing, just a weird situation. Adrenaline, trauma bonding, or whatever people call it when something intense messes with your head. That's what I went with. Didn't stop me from thinking about him constantly. A week passed, then another. I started getting pieces of my life back together: insurance calls, temporary housing, replacing stuff I didn't even realize mattered until it was gone. Normal things. Routine. But there was this gap. Like something had shifted the night of the fire, and everything after felt slightly off without it. Without him, we hadn't exchanged numbers. Which, in hindsight, made zero sense. I had no way of contacting Aaron. No reason to expect I'd see him again. And still, part of me kept looking. Every time I walked into a cafe, every time I passed a fire truck, every time I heard sirens in the distance. It was stupid. I knew that. Didn't stop it. It was late when it finally happened again. Not dramatic this time. No fire. No chaos. Just a grocery store. I was standing in the frozen aisle, staring at pizza like it personally offended me, when I felt that weird awareness you get when someone's looking at you. I turned, and there he was. Aaron. Same as before, but not. No gear. No urgency. Just jeans, a black t-shirt, and that same steady presence that somehow made everything else fade a little. For a second, we both just stood there. Then, hey. Simple. Like we hadn't just gone weeks without seeing each other. Hey. I replied, trying not to sound like my brain had just short-circuited. You live around here? He asked, stepping closer. Yeah. Temporary place, I said. You? He nodded. Couple blocks. Of course. Of course he did. There was this weird pause. Not awkward. Just loaded. Like both of us were aware this wasn't just coincidence anymore. You disappeared, I said before I could stop myself. His expression shifted slightly. I figured you needed space, he replied. That wasn't the question. That earned me a look. Not annoyed. More like surprised. Good. Because I was surprising myself too. I didn't think you'd want, he started, then stopped. Want what? I pushed. His jaw tightened slightly. Me showing up again. I let out a quiet breath. You literally showed up again, I pointed out. That almost smile. God, that thing was going to ruin me. I didn't plan this, he said. Yeah, I replied. Sure. He huffed out a quiet laugh, shaking his head. I didn't. And the way he said it? I believed him. We ended up walking out of the store together. Neither of us suggested it. It just happened. Same direction. Same pace. Close enough that our arms brushed once. Neither of us moved away. You settling okay? He asked after a minute. Trying to, I said. Feels weird starting over. He nodded, like he understood more than he was saying. You will. Simple. Certain. That same tone he used in the fire. Like if he said it, it had to be true. We reached my building faster than I wanted. I stopped at the entrance, turning to face him. Well, this is me. Yeah, he said. Neither of us moved. Again. That pause. That tension. Do you always do that? I asked quietly. Do what? Stick around. His eyes held mine. Longer this time. No, he said again. Same answer. Different weight. I swallowed, my heart picking up for no good reason. Then why now? For a second, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because I keep thinking about you. No hesitation. No backing off. Just truth. That hit harder than anything else so far. Because I didn't have a clever response. Didn't have an excuse. All I had was the same thing. Yeah, I admitted quietly. Same. Something shifted. Right there. Not big. Not explosive. Just undeniable. He stepped a little closer. Not enough to cross a line. Just enough that I could feel it. The heat. The tension. The choice. You going to invite me up? He asked, voice lower now. And yeah, there it was. The moment where everything could either stop or finally start. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, but because I did. Peter. The way he said my name. Like he already knew what I was thinking. Like he was waiting, but not pushing. I exhaled slowly, then reached for the door. Yeah, I said. Come up. And just like that, he didn't disappear from my life. He stepped right into it. The second the door closed behind us, everything changed. It wasn't dramatic. No sudden move. No immediate tension snapping into something obvious. Just quiet. Too quiet. The kind that makes you aware of everything you're breathing, his presence, the small space suddenly feeling a lot smaller. Nice place, Aaron said, glancing around. It was barely furnished. Temporary. A couch. A table. A couple of boxes I hadn't unpacked yet. Yeah, I muttered. Still figuring it out. He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't really looking at the place. He was looking at me. I dropped my keys on the counter, trying to act normal, trying to ignore the way my pulse had picked up again. You want something to drink? I asked. Classic move. Safe. Neutral. Sure, he said. I turned toward the kitchen, grateful for the second to breathe. Bad idea. Because the second I stepped away, I felt it. Him following. Not rushed. Not aggressive. Just close. I grabbed a glass, focusing way too hard on something simple. Water. Just get water. My hand was steady. Everything else wasn't. You always this quiet? He asked. His voice was right behind me. Closer than before. I swallowed. Only when I don't know what to say. Funny, he said softly. I turned. And yeah, that was a mistake. Because he was right there. Closer than I expected. Close enough that I had to tilt my head slightly to meet his eyes. Close enough that I could feel the heat between us without either of us touching. You had plenty to say at the store, he added. Yeah, well, I exhaled lightly. Different situation. His gaze dropped for a split second to my lips, then back up. Subtle, but not subtle enough. Is it? He asked. And that question didn't have a safe answer. I could have stepped back, created space, kept things normal. But I didn't. Feels different, I admitted. His expression shifted slightly. Not surprised. More like, he'd been waiting for that. Good different? He asked. My chest tightened. Yeah, that was it. That was the moment. His hand moved first. Slow. Careful. Like he was giving me time to stop him. He didn't grab me. Didn't pull me in. Just rested his hand lightly against my side. And waited. I didn't move. Didn't stop him. Didn't breathe, honestly. You sure? He asked quietly. And I knew what he meant. Not just this moment. Everything. I nodded. Yeah. That was all he needed. He closed the distance. Not rushed. Not hesitant. Just certain. The first contact was soft. Barely there. Like he was testing it. Like he didn't want to assume anything. But the second I leaned in, that changed. His hand tightened slightly at my side, pulling me closer as the kiss deepened. Still controlled. Still measured. But not distant anymore. And yeah, for someone who spent weeks telling himself this was nothing, it didn't feel like nothing. I lost track of time. Of thought. Of everything except the way it felt. The way he felt. When we finally pulled back, it wasn't far. Foreheads almost touching. Breathing uneven. Still think this is just a random thing? He murmured. I let out a quiet, breathless laugh. Not even a little. His thumb brushed lightly against my side. Absent-minded. Like he'd already gotten used to touching me. Good, he said. There was something steady about him. Even now. Even here. Like the same guy who pulled me out of that fire. Was standing in my kitchen. Looking at me like this mattered. And the crazy part? It did. More than I was ready to admit. But way too much to ignore. Guess you really don't disappear? I said quietly. That almost smile again. Closer this time. Softer. Not from you, he replied. Yeah, that definitely wasn't normal. And somehow, I didn't want it to be. I didn't expect him to stay. That's the thing. Moments like that intense, sudden, built on adrenaline, and something you don't fully understand, they usually burn out just as fast as they start. You kiss. Maybe more. Then it fades. People leave. That's how it works. But Aaron? He didn't move. We were still standing in my kitchen, way too close, the air thick with everything we hadn't said yet. And instead of stepping back, instead of creating space like a normal person would, he stayed right there, like he had nowhere else to be. You're thinking too much, he said quietly. I huffed out a small breath. You can tell. His hand was still at my side, thumb brushing lightly back and forth like he wasn't even aware he was doing it. Yeah, he said. You do this thing. What thing? Get in your head, he replied simply. I looked at him. Really looked this time. How do you even know that? That earned me a small shrug. Just do. That should have felt weird. We barely knew each other. But it didn't. If anything, it felt accurate. I don't usually do this, I admitted. Invite firefighters over, he said, that hint of humor slipping in. I rolled my eyes. You know what I mean. Yeah, he said, softer now. And something in his expression shifted. Less teasing. More real. Me neither, he added. That caught me off guard. You don't. He shook his head slightly. No. There was no hesitation in it. No games. Just truth. That settled something in me. A little. Not completely. But enough. So what is this then? I asked. Because yeah, if we were doing this, I needed to understand it. Even a little. Aaron didn't answer right away. He studied me for a second, like he was choosing his words carefully. which, coming from him, meant this mattered. I don't know yet, he said finally. Not the answer I expected. But weirdly, not the wrong one either. But I know I didn't look for you again for no reason, he added. And I know I'm not here by accident. His eyes held mine. Steady. Certain. And I know I don't want to walk out that door and pretend this didn't happen. Yeah, that did something to me. Good, I said quietly. Because I didn't want that either. Not even close. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was grounding, like we'd both just admitted something neither of us could take back. So, I said after a second, trying to lighten it just a little, you always this intense. That almost smile. Closer now. Warmer. Only when it matters. And yeah, that answer hit harder than it should have. I shook my head slightly, a quiet laugh slipping out. Yeah, okay. That's a lot. He didn't argue. Didn't back off. Instead, he stepped closer again. This time, there was no hesitation. No testing. No waiting. His hand slid from my side to my waist, pulling me in just enough to erase the last bit of space between us. You want me to slow down? He asked. But the way he said it, he already knew the answer. I shook my head. Don't. That was all it took. The kiss this time wasn't soft. Still controlled, still him, but deeper, more certain, like we'd crossed whatever line was holding us back before. My hands found him without thinking, gripping his shirt, grounding myself in something real. Something solid. Something that wasn't going anywhere. And that's when it hit me. Not all at once, but enough. This wasn't just about the fire, or the adrenaline, or some random connection that would fade in a week. Aaron didn't disappear. Not after saving me. Not after finding me again. Not even now. And for the first time since that night. Since the smoke, the fear, the moment I thought everything was over. I felt something different. Not panic. Not uncertainty. Something steady. Something that felt like maybe. Just maybe. He wasn't going anywhere. I didn't expect things to feel normal after that. Not normal like nothing happened, more like easy. Like whatever this was between me and Aaron didn't need constant explaining. And somehow, that made it even more real. He stayed the night. We didn't make a big deal out of it. No awkward should I go moment. No overthinking. At some point, we just ended up on the couch, talking about nothing and everything, and then not talking at all. And then, we stayed. I woke up before him, which surprised me. Aaron didn't seem like the kind of guy who slept in. But there he was, stretched out beside me, one arm still loosely draped across my waist like he'd fallen asleep that way and never moved. And yeah, that did something to me. For a second, I just lay there, watching him, which felt weirdly intimate. More than anything that happened the night before. He looked different like this. Softer, less controlled, like the part of him that was always alert, always steady. That part had finally let go for a few hours. Staring again? His voice was rough with sleep, but there was that hint of amusement in it. I huffed quietly. You're awake. Been awake, he muttered, eyes still closed. Creepy. That got a small smile out of him. He finally opened his eyes, looking straight at me. No hesitation. No awkwardness. Morning, he said. Simple. Like this us was already something familiar. Morning, I replied. There was a pause. But not the kind that makes you uncomfortable. The kind that makes you aware. Of where his hand still rested. Of how close we were. Of how easily this could become something more than just a one-time thing. Still thinking too much? He asked quietly. I exhaled. Yeah. He shifted slightly, his hand tightening just a little at my waist. About what? I hesitated. Because the honest answer? Everything. This, I admitted. His gaze didn't waver. Us. I nodded. Another pause. Then. Good. I blinked. Good. He nodded slightly. Means you care. That hit harder than I expected. I barely know you, I said. Not true, he replied. I frowned. It's been, what, 2 weeks? Yeah, he said. And I've seen you at your worst. That shut me up. Because he was right. You saw me when I thought I wasn't getting out of that building, I said quietly. And you still came back after. His expression softened just slightly. I told you, he said. I don't do that for everyone. There it was again. That thing between us that didn't make logical sense, but felt real anyway. So what? You just decided? I asked. That I was worth sticking around for? Aaron didn't hesitate. Yeah. No overthinking. No hesitation. Just, yes. I swallowed, my chest tightening in a way that had nothing to do with fear this time. That's insane, I muttered. He smirked slightly. Probably. Silence again. But this time, it felt different. heavier, more grounded. Peter, he said after a moment. The way he said my name, it always did something. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. And yeah, that should have scared me. Because nothing in my life had been stable lately. Everything had changed. Everything had been taken away, shifted, broken, rebuilt. But him? For some reason, that didn't feel unstable. It felt like the opposite. Like something I could actually hold on to. I let out a slow breath. Then shifted closer. Not thinking. Just doing. Good, I said quietly. His arm tightened around me, pulling me in just a little more. No hesitation. No second guessing. And for the first time since the fire, I didn't feel like I was recovering from something. I felt like I was starting something. Things didn't slow down after that. That's what surprised me the most. I thought maybe we'd take a step back, figure things out, put some kind of label on whatever this was. But that's not how it went. Instead, Aaron just became part of my life. Like he'd always been there. It started small. He'd stop by after his shifts, still in that slightly tired, grounded state that made him seem even more real. Sometimes we'd talk. Sometimes we wouldn't. Sometimes he'd just sit next to me, close enough that our shoulders touched, and that was enough. You don't talk much after work, I pointed out one evening. He leaned back against the couch, exhaling slowly. Depends on the day. That bad? He shrugged slightly. Comes with it. I didn't push, but I started noticing things. The way he'd get quieter after certain calls. The way his eyes would drift, like he was replaying something he couldn't quite shake. You saw someone today? I said one night. Not a question. He looked at me. Really looked. Yeah. That was all he said. But it was enough. I shifted closer, not making a big deal out of it. Just there. He didn't pull away. Didn't deflect. After a second, he leaned into it. Just slightly. That was the thing about Aaron. He didn't open up easily. But when he did, it wasn't halfway. They didn't make it, he said quietly. My chest tightened. I'm sorry. He nodded, like he expected that answer. Like he'd heard it before. I keep thinking if we got there sooner, he started, then stopped. His jaw tightened. I reached for his hand. Didn't ask. Just did it. You got me out, I said. That made him look at me again. And if you didn't, I added, quieter now, I wouldn't be here. That hit. I could see it. That's different, he said. No, I replied. It's not. Silence. But not empty. You don't get to decide which ones matter, I added. He let out a slow breath. And for the first time since I'd met him, he looked unsure. Yeah, he said after a moment. Maybe. That was as close as he got to admitting it. And somehow, that meant more than if he'd fully agreed. He squeezed my hand. Just once. Thanks, he added. And yeah, that stayed with me. Days turned into weeks. And somewhere along the way, this stopped feeling temporary. Aaron had a key to my place. Not in some dramatic, we talked about it for hours kind of way. Just one day, he needed to grab something while I was out, and it made sense. And then, he kept it. You just going to keep that? I asked later. He looked at me, completely calm. Want me to give it back? I hesitated. Then, no. That was it. No big conversation. No pressure. Just understood. And the truth? I liked it. More than I expected. I liked knowing he could show up. That he would show up. You're getting used to this, he said one night. We were lying in bed, the room quiet, his arm draped across me like it belonged there. To what? I asked. To me being here. I turned my head slightly to look at him. Yeah, I admitted. His thumb brushed lightly against my side. Same absent-minded motion as before. But now, familiar. Good, he said. I exhaled quietly. Then, after a second, are you? That made him pause. Just slightly. Then, yeah. Simple, but solid. And that's when it hit me. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just clearly. The fire didn't just take things from me. It changed everything. Because yeah, it almost ended my life. But it also brought Aaron into it. And somehow, he didn't disappear. He stayed. And at this point, I couldn't imagine him leaving. I didn't think about losing him until the night I almost did. It wasn't a fire this time, which somehow made it worse. I was lying in bed, half asleep, scrolling through my phone when it happened. A news alert. Building fired, downtown, multiple units affected. Normally, I would have ignored it. Fires weren't abstract to me anymore, but they weren't personal either. Not like before. Except, Aaron was on shift. My chest tightened instantly. I sat up, staring at the screen like it might update faster if I forced it to. No details. No names. Just chaos in text form. Come on, I muttered under my breath. I didn't even realize I was already dialing his number until it was ringing. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. That's when the panic hit. Not the sharp, explosive kind from the fire. Something slower, heavier. The kind that sits in your chest and refuses to move. I tried again. Nothing. Shit. I got up, pacing without direction, running a hand through my hair. My brain kept trying to stay rational. He's fine. He's trained. This is his job. But that didn't matter. Because now I knew exactly what that job looked like. And I knew how close it could get. I didn't even remember grabbing my jacket. Didn't remember leaving the apartment. The next thing I knew, I was outside, heading toward the address in the article. By the time I got there, it was already chaos. Flashing lights. Smoke. People gathered behind barriers. Too familiar. Way too familiar. I pushed closer than I probably should have. Trying to see. Trying to find. Him. Every firefighter looked the same from a distance. Same gear. Same movement. Same urgency. My heart was pounding so hard it drowned everything else out. Sir, you need to stay back. I barely registered the voice. I'm looking for someone. Then, I saw him. Aaron. Moving through the smoke like I remembered. Controlled. Focused. Exactly the same as the night he found me. Relief hit so hard it almost knocked the air out of me. But it didn't last. Because a second later, something shifted. A shout. Movement. And part of the structure collapsed. No. I didn't even realize I said it out loud. Everything froze. Just for a second. But it was enough. My chest locked up. My brain refused to process anything except one thought. He was in there. Time stretched. Seconds felt like minutes. Minutes felt like too long. Then, movement again. Through the smoke. Figures emerged. 1, 2, 3. And then, him. Aaron. Walking out like he always did. Like nothing could stop him. My knees almost gave out. He pulled off his helmet, running a hand through his hair, breathing heavy but steady. Alive. I didn't think. Didn't hesitate. I pushed forward before anyone could stop me. Aaron. He turned instantly. Like he recognized my voice before he even saw me. Peter. I didn't stop. Didn't slow down. I closed the distance and grabbed him, pulling him into me without thinking twice. For a second, he froze. Then his arms wrapped around me just as tight. What are you doing here? He asked, voice low, still catching his breath. I saw the news. I said, my voice coming out rough. You didn't answer, I thought. I couldn't finish it. Didn't need to. He pulled back just enough to look at me. And for the first time since I'd met him, he looked shaken. I'm okay, he said. I know, I breathed. I know. My hands were still gripping his shirt. Like if I let go, he'd disappear. He noticed. Of course he did. I told you, he said quietly, that you're not going anywhere. I finished. He nodded. And neither are you, he added. That hit differently now. Heavier. Real. I exhaled slowly, finally loosening my grip, but not stepping away. Not completely. You scared the hell out of me, I admitted. His expression softened. Yeah, he said. You too. I blinked. Me? He nodded slightly. That night, he said. When I found you. Right. We stood there, the noise of everything else fading into the background again. Just like the first time. Only this time. It wasn't about being saved. It was about not losing each other. I let out a quiet breath. Then, softer. Guess we're even. That almost smile. Not even close, he said. I shook my head, a small laugh slipping out. And then, without overthinking it, without questioning it, I leaned in. Not rushed. Not desperate. Just certain. And when he kissed me back, it felt exactly like everything else with him. Steady. Real. Not going anywhere. The fire could have taken everything from me. And for a while, it did. But it also gave me something I never expected. Someone who didn't disappear. Someone who stayed. Aaron didn't just save my life. He became part of it. And this time, neither of us was letting go.